All right, we've waited a couple minutes. We should have several more join us, hopefully, but I want to make sure that we stick to a fairly tight schedule and get you in and out by 2 o'clock today. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. I am Liz Gray. I am the State Director for the Small Business Development Center and have the pleasure of joining you for the first few minutes of today to introduce the webinar, our speaker, Carol Ann Karen, and talk a little bit about SBDC. So first off, thank you all for taking some time out of your busy day to join us for today's webinar in our From Startup to Scale Up webinar series and for business foundation success. Carol Ann, we really appreciate you taking time today to join us. She is a CPA by trade and a fractional CFO out of Merrimack. She's got 34 years of experience ranging from auditing financial institutions and governmental entities at KPMG to accounting for investment firms across the world at Mellon Health and Company. Carol Ann's firm, Do What You Love Accounting Inc., helps service-based businesses surpass their goals and excel through exceptional accounting services and out-of-the-box thinking. Her belief is that business and accounting should be fun and inclusive. So we are thrilled to have you here today. And if you wouldn't mind, Carol Ann, just switching to the next slide, I'll just do, like I said, a quick overview of SBDC. I'm hoping most of you have worked with an SBDC representative or advisor in the past, but if not, now is a great time to get to know us. We are one of 63 SBDCs across the country, and we work as a cooperative agreement here in the state of New Hampshire with the U.S. Small Business Administration, the state, and UNH as our host institution. Our primary mission is to provide business advising and education for small businesses across New Hampshire. And when I say small, we actually work off of SBA's definition of small, which means any business here in New Hampshire with less than 500 employees. Our incredible team of business advisors and team members provide highly individualized and confidential advising at no cost. In addition to our one-on-one advising, we also provide other great resources and trainings, whether it's webinars like this one. We have over 30 e-courses that are free for you to be able to access 24/7 online on a host of different issues. We do a lot of specialized trainings on exporting or government contracting and cybersecurity and resiliency throughout the year as well. Carolyn, do you want to go to the next slide, please? We are extremely proud of the impact that we have had over the last year alone. We supported 1,910 businesses. We also helped them start 81 new companies here in New Hampshire and raise close to $16 million in new capital. Again, for a small but mighty team of 18 right now, we're really truly proud of the work that we have done and the impact that we've had on the state, which, as you see, is $254.6 million on the state. And, our impact continues to grow every day and every year. Carolyn, if you could swap to the next slide. Here, as I mentioned, are just a couple of the programs that are a little bit more specialized that we work on. We've got our business sustainability program looking at energy efficiency and other ways that you can be more mindful of your business output and meeting client and customer needs. Our Export Accelerator helps new to export businesses look at creating a business plan to take that first leap, whether it's going to Canada, Mexico, Europe, or Asia. We're here to be able to help guide you as you're looking at making some of those new investments and addressing new markets. But we've got our cybersecurity program, our matchmaker, some great opportunities to partner with UNH and the programs there. And then last, but certainly not least, our LEAF program, which is why we're here today. And Carol Ann has been one of the consultants that has been working with the LEAF program now for quite some time. And through that program, you're able to access up to 5 hours of free time, consulting time with an attorney, an accountant, a part-time CFO, some of our QuickBooks experts, in addition to all of the time and advising that you get with our business advisors here at SBDC. The LEAF program is also helping us be able to pull together these webinars for all of you. They'll be recorded, as you know, and the slides and the recording will be available online for folks to be able to access again in the future. So with that, I want to turn it over to Carol Ann because that's why we're all here today. And like I said, I very much appreciate your time and your partnership with SBDC. So, and if anybody has questions, Mike is here. He's going to be managing the chat. We also have one of our amazing business advisors, Jean Nelson, on the line as well too. So thanks very much and enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate that. And yes, I've been working with the LEAF program since this program started, and then also the program before it. So I love working with businesses and helping them understand their financials and get a little bit more knowledge. So I'm really excited today to dive into this idea of our business foundation and how we can make that successful. One thing that I want to say is I know finances are not everybody's cup of tea, and a lot of people get really anxious when they talk about their finances. So I just want to call that out and name it and say that it's okay. Not everybody needs to be really good at this to be good at their business, but there are some things that if you know will help you be even better at your business. So like Liz was saying, I've been a CPA for 34 years with everything from one of the biggest four accounting firms in the world to down to local firms, and worked with all ranges of businesses from nonprofit and governmental to financial institutions to retail and food service and even sports businesses. So. And I've owned several businesses, so I know exactly what it's like to be in the day-to-day and making sure that, your business is surviving, but even more importantly, thriving. The most important thing with accounting, in my opinion, is being able to connect what's happening in your accounting world to the owner, being able to explain things in plain English and in a way that not only you can understand, but also that you can take that information and propel your business forward. I noticed everybody has camera off, so I invite you, if you'd like to have camera on. I promise I don't bite, so. I want to just start with a story, because I understand that sometimes being an entrepreneur can feel very dark and lonely. There's been many days that I myself in business, I felt alone. I didn't know where to go for help or information, and the SBDC is a great source for that. But over my last 34 years of experience in the professional world, I've found that everybody can feel this way, whether you're an employee of the business or you're the business owner of the business. So the reason why I tell this story is because you're not alone. Everybody at one point in time has felt like this, and that's okay. But today I want to share with you the biggest piece of information that I've figured out that has propelled me forward in business. Because if you can get this foundation set in your business, then there's so much more that you can do from there. So we want to take you from the dark, lonely, on your own, struggling, into the light, into having a team that is with you, whether that's in your business, that you have a team at your business, or with a team of advisors through like the SBDC. Everybody should be working together to help you reach your goals, whatever those goals are. And goals are very personal. So you don't have to have the same goal as your neighbor or even the person who's in the same industry as you. Your goals are personal to you, and that's okay. What you want out of your business is very personal, and we understand that. So in coming into that light, one of the key areas of that is knowing your numbers. And I know we've heard this a lot in business, that business owners need to know their numbers. Now, for me, I'm not a person who memorizes things. I know where I can find it, so I can go and look it up. So to me, knowing your numbers doesn't mean that you have to have everything memorized, and you have to be able to spit it out when somebody asks you what your numbers are. You do need to know where to find them, and you do need to know what they mean and how they can push you forward. So when I say knowing your numbers, that's what I mean. It means knowing exactly where your business is going and what it needs to do to reach your goals. And not only is knowing my numbers going to help my business reach my goals, but it's going to provide for my business. It's going to allow me to pay my bills, right? And it's also going to provide for my family. So that's a big topic that we're going to talk about today. So we just said the key is knowing your numbers. I know it's scary, but you probably agree that knowing your numbers could mean that you're able to pay your bills. You're making more profit without sacrificing growth. You're keeping more money in your business so that it can grow. But most importantly, to most business owners, is having that impact or lifestyle that they want. I know a lot of business owners who are working a lot and not taking home much, but I know when they thought of that business idea, they didn't say, hey, I want to work 24/7 and not bring anything home, not make any money. That's not what they wanted. They wanted to go out, do good in the world and take their ideas out to help other people improve or bring a product to the world that maybe they saw a need for. So knowing your numbers can help you do all of that. So if we talk about our foundation, we can't really set a foundation if we don't know where we need to start. I don't know if we have any construction people here, but I love this analysis. If you're building a house or you're building any structure, if you have a really strong foundation, then your structure can be really strong. If you have an iffy or a weak foundation, then your structure might fall down, or you might not be able to do what you want to do with it. Maybe your foundation can only support one floor where you really wanted 2 or 3. So if we get that foundation right and we get the numbers in our business right, then we can really propel our business forward. So let's talk about what that foundation might be. As we're talking about this, I want you to make sure that you take a few pieces of caution. You want to make sure that when you're looking at your numbers, you're always comparing the same time frames. So we're going to talk about personal versus business. If we're talking about monthly numbers for our personal, we want to talk about monthly numbers for our business. If we're talking about annual numbers for our personal and what we need to bring home, then we want to talk about annual numbers for our business. We always want to make sure, as we say in accounting, that we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. So just a little fruit for thought there. The important thing is just to stay consistent with whatever time frame you decide is good for you to work with. For me, I like monthly numbers, so we're mostly going to be talking about monthly numbers today. So the first thing that we need to consider as a business owner is On your household side, do you have any outside or W-4 income coming into the house? So if you have a husband-wife team and the wife owns the business, does the husband have a job that he's bringing home a paycheck every week or every 2 weeks or twice a month? That's the first consideration that you want to think about. How much is your business relying on you to take money home? So after we figure that out, again, we're going to, on my example, we're going to talk about monthly, but you could do this annually or whatever works for you. So let's just say you have W-4 income coming in from a part-time job of $3,200, or maybe it's a full-time job. So we're going to plug this into our spreadsheet, and everybody who's here today is going to get a copy of this spreadsheet. It'll be shared with you after. Then after you figure out what you have coming in from outside your business to your household, you want to look at regular expenses that are happening in your household budget. So on the screen here, you see several very common categories. You might have more, you might not have everything, but this is just to get your mind started thinking about what am I paying for on my household side? And when we say expenses, that's just money going out. So rent or mortgage, most people have that. House insurance, house repairs, water, electric, utilities, your automobile, the gas registration, maintenance that goes into that. We all have to eat. So your grocery money that goes out. If you have a pet, excuse me, if you have a pet, then you could have pet food, pet care, veterinary costs. If you belong to a gym, you can have a gym membership. So on and so forth. Like I said, these are just examples. You probably won't have all of them, but I just tried to put them in so that it might trigger you to say, oh yes, I forgot about that. I do pay for that subscription. Subscriptions are the most forgotten expense out there because we usually pay for it on an annual basis and then forget about it. And then when the subscription comes up for renewal, it's either on auto renew or we get the email and we say, oh yeah, I haven't used that for 9 months, so go ahead and cancel that. So don't forget about your subscriptions. When we're talking about our foundation, we want to try and categorize these expenses into need, such as groceries, and want, such as eating out. Both food items, but groceries are a need. Eating out could be a want, or it could be a need, depending on your situation. You get to categorize this as a need or a want based on your situation. I'm not here to tell you what is good or bad or whatnot. It's all based on your needs. If we compare this down to our needs, then we're going to get that minimum foundation in a few minutes once we go a couple more slides. If we get down to the need and we can live with the need until we can increase what we're bringing in from our business, then later on down the road, we can add in some of those wants. So this is what it might look like in our spreadsheet. So all I did was take those categories that I listed out and assigned a monthly number for them and put them in each of the categories to come down with my total expenses for the month. And When you get this worksheet, you can change these descriptions to meet your needs. So you don't have to stick with mine. So since now we have our income from outside of the business and we have our expenses for the household, now we can come down to what does our business need to cover? So in our example, we had W-4 income or outside the business income of $3,200. And our household had total expenses of just under $9,000. So from our business, if our household is going to stay spending the way that it's been spending, we need to bring in just over $5,700 a month from our business. So now that we know what our household needs, now we can jump over to the business side and really start to think about how can our business help to cover what our household needs. And the reason why I'm talking about this so much, and I believe in this so much, is because a lot of business owners don't think about it this way. To me, if you can tell your business what you need it to cover on your personal side is going to be less stressful. And then we'll talk about in a few minutes how we get there. So let's jump over to the business side. Just like we talked about on our personal side with the expenses, we have expenses for our business. They might look similar, but they might be called different things. So for example, in your personal life, you might have groceries. In your business, you might call that meals. And the meals have to be a business meeting meal or providing a meal for a like your team or something like that. So some of the very common business expenses are up here on the screen. And again, this is not everything, but these are common categories for business expenses. Now, when I talk about expenses, I talk about everything that's going out of your business account. So think about how you're spending your money in your business. That to me is expenses. So accounting costs, if you have it, advertising, bank fees, business licenses, car and truck expenses, contractors, if you pay somebody outside your business to help you in your business, maybe some education or gifts, and so on and so forth. One thing that might look different to you is this item here, loan payments. Whoops. Sorry, hold on. I forgot when I click on the screen that it advances. So sorry about that. So you see here loan payments. So in your business, only the interest is going to be on your income statement or your expenses. But when you're talking about money going out of the business, your entire loan payment needs to be taken into account because you need to set that money aside in your business so that you can pay that loan. Hopefully that makes sense. So my view of the expenses that we're talking about is any money going out of your business. So again, we're taking those expenses from your business and we're just plugging it into a spreadsheet. You can get this information from your Excel sheet if that's how you keep track of your business income and expenses. You can get it from your accounting program, like a QuickBooks, if you use QuickBooks. However you keep track of your expenses, you would add up for the month what you spent and you would plug it in here. Now, if you notice, I have an amount here in yellow called owner's draw. Now that amount, if you remember, came from our minimum income needed from our house. So any money as a sole proprietor or an LLC that you take out of your business, that's called an owner's draw. So now we're starting to bring the household and the business together to really figure out what our business needs to generate for revenue. Hopefully I haven't lost you. I know that this is a lot of information, but I promise you this is going to make sense and this is going to be fun in just a minute. So if we take the equation that we had for our household, which was household income minus household expenses is the minimum income that we need to take out of the business. And then we add back in our business cash uses or our business expenses. That's the minimum income or revenue that your business needs to generate on a monthly basis. So with our example here, we're going to say our minimum income was $13,500. Now, what if our current revenue per month is $5,000? So now we have a difference. So our requirement is $13,500. What we're currently bringing in is $5,000. So now we have a difference, right, of $8,500. So we need to make that up somehow. And to me, this is the fun part. So if we're comparing our actual, what we have and our needs, and they're not quite even, we get to put our thinking cap on. So in our business, when we need to come up with a gap in revenue, there's several ways to do it. So let's talk about a couple of those ways. And I want you to be thinking about, in your business, how does this apply to me? So for me, most of my revenue comes from monthly recurring services that I do for clients. So if I have a gap in revenue, I'm thinking, how can I find a new client that might cover that gap? Or how can I help a client more so that I can increase that monthly revenue with that client? Say I have a client who's been asking for a new service. Can I add that new service on and get that recurring revenue on a monthly basis? This is where I want you to start thinking and having fun. For me, having fun is creating a workshop like this, like you guys are at. Can I go out and teach something that I know and either charge for that workshop or get people to come into my business as a result of me presenting at that workshop? So if you're in a service-based business, that could be something that you could do. You're the business owner. You get to say what your business does, right? So if you have an income gap and you can create an event that focuses on your expertise and introduces new people to your business, then maybe that event could, for that month, cover that gap, right? To me, that's exciting. How can I go out and share my knowledge, share my expertise, bring more people into my business and cover that gap? So I want you to start thinking about not so much, oh, I need to bring in X amount of dollars this month. I want you to start thinking about more the top of the funnel rather than what will be generated at the bottom. What event can I create? How can I get myself out to my current clients? Maybe your answer is going to be, I need to raise my per hour rate so that the work that I'm doing for my clients already, I'm getting paid a little bit more. And I'm going to say I want to get paid a little bit more because our service is so much better than what is out there in the rest of the community. Or I'm going to get paid a little bit more because we really take care of our people on the other end, on the back end, and people view that as something that is beneficial to their business. The biggest thing that you want to think about is how can I get cash in my business as I'm performing that service? So if you're performing a service and you're waiting to get paid, then you have to cover those expenses while you wait to get paid. So the more you can get paid up front, the better your revenue is going to match your expenses. And then that we call cash flow. And the better your cash flow, the better your business, because you can do more, you can cover more, because money is there for you to use. Hopefully that's making sense. So this part here, to me, thinking about what could we do to cover that gap that we talked about back here, what could we do? That's the fun part. The other thing that I want you to remember is there's a difference in business. There's a difference between you going out and performing a service or you providing a product or you doing something in your business. There's a difference between that and you being the business owner or the CEO of your business and making the decisions that need to happen to push your business forward. The more you can put on that CEO cap and think about, if I'm the CEO of the business and I'm the one pushing my business forward, what do I want to see? What does success mean to me? And in that success definition, what do I need to do? What do I need to offer? And what do I need to put out in the world to bring more people into my business? If you can think like the CEO and you can think like the person who has to make the hard decisions, I guarantee you your business is going to do much better than if you're thinking, oh, I need to go out and provide the service. You might still have to do that, but every once in a while we need to take that step back and we need to think like the CEO instead of thinking like the service or the product provider. That to me is the biggest thing that can help you set your business foundation. So if you go through this exercise that we just went through, and I know we went through it really quickly, I try not to dwell on the numbers because I know it's overwhelming for a lot of business owners. But like I said, you're going to get the worksheet, you're going to get to play with that, you're going to get to make it your own. You're also going to have the replay available to you so you can go through it several times if you need to and keep revisiting it. The other thing that I want you to remember is it's your business for a reason, right? You started this business because you wanted to put something out in the world. The more you can concentrate on doing that, the more successful your business is going to be because you're concentrating on doing the good that you wanted to do, putting the service out there that you wanted to put out there. So hopefully this information has been helpful for you. If you get the numbers right and you can analyze your gap, like we were talking about, that business foundation, that's going to be your knowing your numbers. Knowing what you need to bring in every month is going to help you get to the point of setting those realistic goals. Also, when you have that conversation with your accountant, your advisor, your tax preparer, your bookkeeper, whoever you have on your team, on your financial side, I'm giving you permission to ask questions. You, as the business owner, cannot know your numbers if you don't ask the questions that are in your head. There aren't any dumb questions. There aren't any questions that you shouldn't ask, because if it's a question for you, then it's something that you need to know. You, beyond your brain, need to know it so that you can feel comfortable with how your business is doing. But also you need to feel comfortable with what your numbers are. If you have a hard time with that, I want you to just start with one thing. Let's say, for example, you set a goal of knowing what your revenue number is. Can you find out what that number is and look at it? How does that make you feel? Can you look at it without immediately wanting to close the screen? If not, think about why. Why does that make you nervous? Is it because you don't know how to control it? Is it because you don't know what the plan is? These are the questions that you need to have answered with the people who are in your corner. And I said at the beginning, and Liz said also, that's what the SBDC consultants are here for. Not only your consultant that you work with, that you're assigned to, but if you're in the LEAF program, the consultant that you have there too. That's what we're here for. I want you to ask me questions. So on that note, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask today? And if not, you have my contact information up on the screen. And we also have, do we have contact information for the SBDC also? Because I thought it was on that last screen, but I didn't see it there.
That's okay,
So
Carolyn. I will drop a link in the chat for our attendees.
perfect.
I really loved your analogy about kind of seeing the gap between where your revenues are and where they need to be as an opportunity for problem solving. And like that kind of that positive approach, because a lot of people do have a lot of concerns around kind of the financials and accounting.
Yes.
Could you speak more to maybe a different instance of that positivity? You did a lot of talking about in the beginning, getting set up for success and doing a deep dive on all of your expenses, which can kind of be frightening for people. But you
Yes.
often uncover a lot of really great opportunities where you're spending more money than you need to, or you could take certain services and combine them and save money there for better value. Could you talk more about kind of how people can approach that in kind of diving into those expenses with kind of a positive mindset to drive down costs, find opportunity, and et cetera?
Yeah, definitely. So my view of expenses are everything that you're spending your money on should drive your revenue. So even, for example, let's take my fee. So accounting, right? How can accounting drive revenue? Well, if your accountant can explain to you what your numbers mean, and you can look at those numbers and be comfortable with them, then that information empowers you, right? You know why you're spending that money, you know where you're spending that money. So that can then turn into a revenue driver just because you've given yourself the opportunity of empowerment. So knowing what that number means is an empowering action, right? you're not just writing a check, or you're not just seeing money go out of your account every month. You know exactly why you're spending that money. And that money is ultimately putting you in a better position so that you can drive your business forward. One thing that I learned recently, which was very eye-opening to me, is you as the business owner and your business as an entity mirror each other. So your capacity as a business owner will drive the capacity of the business. The more you can get comfortable with your numbers and where you're spending your money and why you're spending that money, the more your business can be driven forward. So think of yourself and your business as a mirror. If you improve yourself, your business will improve. Now, Michael, going back to your question, I have yet to meet a business that is spending only the money that they have to spend. Like, there's always at least one expense that the business owner is like, yeah, it doesn't really drive our revenue, but I've been with them for so long, or I've been doing this for so long that I just have to keep going. Well, to me, that's not the right answer, right? Again, let's look at that expense and make sure, okay, so you've been with that company for years. Are you getting the best service? Are you getting all the services that you need from that company? Are you paying their best rate? And a lot of times you're not. A lot of times you get into a service with a company and you're in that box, and they don't come to you and say, hey, we see that you're growing and we have this service that we think would be good for you. Do you want to add that on? So you always want to look at your expenses and say, okay, what is that doing for my business? If it's just I think I need to spend money on that, then we need to dive a little bit deeper and say, okay, truly, what is that doing for my business? And I think that's where we can really start to feel the empowerment around our expenses, is by analyzing it and saying, can my business go forward and still generate revenue without this? If the answer is no, and you still need it, then let's make sure that we're using it to its potential, right? And that, to me, is the empowerment piece on the expense side. Does that make sense?
Yes, that was great. And I think that kind of going through that example really hammers home the point of having somebody outside of, the day-to-day and outside of you evaluating and analyzing things to be able to say, hey, what is the deal with this? Like, are you getting value out of this? Is it contributing? Is there an alternative? Are you getting the best price? So whether that be with your business advisor or your accountant or your leave advisor, that can be really helpful in going through that process, right?
Definitely. Yep.
All right, so I think that we are good on questions at this point. That was a ton of great content. The LEAF program is absolutely wonderful. If you are not already working with an SBDC advisor or working with the LEAF program, I highly encourage you to explore our website, consider reaching out to connect with a business advisor, and look more into our LEAF program. It is a phenomenal program. Carolyn has helped us in a number of ways and worked with many, many people over the course of the program. So cannot recommend it enough to everybody. So thank you again, Carolyn, for presenting today. We really appreciate it. Such great content.
You're very welcome. I appreciate being here.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you. I appreciate that.